I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, December the 21st, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Their feedlot starter tub offers 20% all-natural, high-quality protein. You want to give it for the first 21 days of new cattle on arrival. It promotes licking, drinking, and eating, all those important things you got to do to get cattle to going again. Get the blue tub. Visit Vitalix.com. Last few feeder auctions for the year are coming up this week, and a lot of them are going to be closed. We've got a few spotty sales we'll have on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards will be closed on Monday here. Joplin is going to have a sale. I'm going to tell you all about that here in just a little bit. They've got kind of a special going. And then we'll have a few sales that will have a sale on Tuesday. Don't really know anybody having a sale beyond Wednesday. It's just getting too close to Christmas, and people want to be with their families and they want to take some time off during that, and it may not affect your sale that day, but when those cattle get to where they're going, they're going to have to be processed, and those people want to spend time with their families too. So you can't just put people in a jam, and you don't want to take any buyers out of the market. So that's probably the best thing to do. Your entire southeast will be shut down because the shippers just close up there, and if you don't have any order buyers in there, you're not going to have a sale. So they'll be closed down for 2 weeks. Won't be a lot of cattle moving over the next 2 weeks. We're going to have several replacement type sales though. We've seen those advertised. Bred cows, pairs, things like that. Bred heifers. There's several of those around, and traditionally we always see those right at the tail end of the year because people like to spend money right at the end of the year for tax reasons. Not sure if anybody's having too much of a tax problem this year. In fact, if we hadn't had that CFAP money, a lot of people would be sucking air pretty bad. And that stimulus did help a lot of people and bailed a lot of people out. Some people, it was pennies from heaven, and they just enjoyed taking that too, and they were in good shape. But there's a lot of specials around. You guys can get some nice strings of bred heifers, young bred cows. Could be a few deals of pairs. I doubt it. They probably peeled those off of there, but just any kind of replacement stock that you're looking for, you can find several of those sales around. I'm going to be going to 2 next week, not this week, but next week after Christmas. I usually like to take a few days off there, but not this time. I'm going to be going to South Texas to a sale in Brenham, Texas, and one in Pearsall, Texas, both commercial type replacement female sales, and I hope those go well. You guys in that country, or you're interested in cattle that come from that area, you might be kind of thinking about that. They're going to be on dvauction.com, and you can view and bid those sales, and they will be next Tuesday and Wednesday after Christmas there. But talk about what went on this past week. Of course, the Cattle on Feed report came out, and the numbers, the data itself that we were expecting was positive data. Lighter placements, backed off, not having too much increase on cattle on feed, and the like, and so those were very positive. And then, of course, your average of analyst guess were also right in there, and they absolutely notched it. They couldn't have gotten any closer, really. I mean, a few tenths of a percentage point, but that's not bad at all. And I don't think that should take away from the positiveness of the report. It may not be considered bullish because they didn't miss it to the positive side, but there were positive data there, and they notched it. So it should still lend support to your market. And I think we're going out of 2020 kind of on a positive note on our cattle markets, and I expect especially your feeder cattle markets to be pretty impressive starting out the new year. So you look at the Cattle on Feed report, your actual December 1st inventory numbers come in at 100.1% of a year ago. Now that may be, it is always, something's always a record for this series. Well, that's a record number of cattle on feed for this particular report, but 100.1 was the actual, the guess was 100 even. So wash right there, that's a good deal. Your placements during November, the actual come in at 91.1. Your estimation was 91.8, so that is a little bit favorable. You know, it's actually a little bit lighter, almost a full percentage point lighter than what even your analysts had expected. And they've been getting to where they're cranking them down there to the friendly side pretty good. But, you know, and that sounds pretty light, 91%. Well, indeed, that is kind of deceptive, because that's in comparison to a year ago when we saw a big influx of feeder cattle receipts in the sale barns and people selling in the country, because we had gotten all of our packing plants back in order. You remember in 2019 we had the big Holcomb plant fire. Well, Holcomb had just come back online, you know, just a few weeks ago, you know, a year ago. And so then people, you know, felt better about the market and marketed quite a few cattle. So that is in comparison to a pretty big slug of cattle being placed a year ago this past month. Marketings come in a little better than what they thought due to the days, the business days and everything, 98.3%. Your average guess was 97.9. So both of those, the placement and the marketings was somewhat friendly. But, you know, they fairly notched the thing, and I think that should be friendly in itself. But one thing that is curious to me is how our actual numbers come in at 100.1, and that was just a little bit more than your average or analyst guess. And then placements were lighter and marketings were heavier. And that doesn't connect. I don't understand. You know, we should be lower in actual inventories if our placements were lighter and our marketings were bigger, but nevertheless. But it looks like our placements are going to be down for the year. We've talked about how this fall we haven't seen as big a runs of cattle in your auctions, and there just hadn't been that many cattle around. Because likely there's just not that many cattle out there. Our calf crop was smaller, and we've been saying that when we come out with our inventory report for last year. We thought that it wasn't showing as many cows that we had lost in the year before, and how many cows had been marketed. And so I think likely that's true now. We're seeing that there's just lighter numbers of calves around. We did see at that mid-year inventory report that they started to tweak it down a little bit, your calf crop, but I think they're usually a year and a half behind on those moves. So we've got lighter numbers of calves coming forward. That's going to be positive for the market. Once you see all these numbers, people and the people that give you know, advice for your funds and stuff like that, they should be getting in, because they'll think it's a pretty good bet that our prices are going to kind of long range in a higher motion. But we got to get this damn Wuhan behind us, and now that we're getting the shots out there, I think it's people are starting to breathe a sigh of relief, and all of us by now have known somebody that struggled with that, some people that's died of it. But you know, I was talking to a guy the other day that knows of a guy that warehouses a lot of pharmaceutical type drugs and things like that, over-the-counter stuff. He said there has been no Theraflu hardly sold at all this fall. Nobody's been taking any of it because they don't have the flu. They all got this Wuhan COVID stuff. And then they think they need to get into the doctor and they need to get on steroids and all this kind of stuff. Nobody has the flu anymore. And you can ask anybody that runs a retail outlet, they'll say, I'm not selling any of that kind of stuff. Not really blaming that, you know, on you know what's causing all this sickness, but just something to talk about there. But we are going forward, but we continue to see more lockdowns. We saw where they're moving the Rose Bowl to Texas because they won't let them have a football game out there with spectators. I guess the reason that we're having these big lockdowns again is because they worked so good last spring. You know, but oh, they didn't work last spring. So what's the point of doing them again? You know, people, you know, zipped up, zip-locked, masked up and everything inside their house, still getting the COVID. And so it just doesn't make any sense to me. I know personally I have been running harder the last 6-8 months than I probably ever have, flying all over the country, going to sales, being around a lot of people. Not even so much. I haven't even had the cold that I normally get. But you know, and God, you know, thank God I haven't. But anyways, we are going to see lighter placements. At the end of the year, it looks like we're going to be like 900,000 down for the year on placements, which is very significant. Lighter numbers of cattle. I think we're going to have a lot of cattle on feed here during the first part of the first quarter, but by the time we get to the end of that first quarter moving forward, we're going to have market ready numbers kind of in our favor. And I think we should see this this April live board kind of get back up there where you guys can hedge. You know, it's too late to get any cattle, but it ought to get up there where it should. And then we go into June and we go down the line. We should get some more help on that. Let's talk about the board for last week. December live cattle futures, Monday was up 35 cents. Tuesday down 50 cents. Wednesday up 17. Thursday up 57. And Friday up $1.12. With December live cattle futures ending the week at 110.47, that was up $1.72. February ended the week at 114.85, up $1.60. Feeder cattle, January, Monday was up 30, Tuesday up 7, Wednesday up 75, and already running at a big premium to what our cash index levels are. But was up the first 3 days of the week. Thursday up another 12 cents, and then Friday backed off 52 cents. As you know, we're getting pretty close into January here, and it's running out front of your cash markets. You know, $2.50, $3. But January feeder cattle ended the week over 140 at 140.45 based on an 800-pound steer. That was up 73 cents for the week. March ended at 142.30. Up $1.75. You might want to look out there to August, and you guys, I know some of you guys that background cattle on grass in the summertime, like you Flint Hills, Osage type guys, you might be starting to think about coming into the market on some of those stockers to turn out. I know it's a long ways till spring, but if you don't get started on them in January, you're not going to get the ones you really want and have time to put those together. Now you'll have to figure out a way to kind of keep those just in a holding pattern, just kind of keep them alive and keep them healthy without fleshing them up. But you might want to look out there to August. August feeder cattle sitting at 150.10. And if you can find somebody to give you a basis trade off of that grass, somewhere in there close to that, that might be a pretty good trade. How about your fat cattle trade through Thursday of last week? 46,300 head. That's light, but they're buying for a holiday week with Christmas Eve and Christmas lying in the week, and sounds like a lot of your plants are going to be closed both of those days, which is more than typical. But actually it wasn't much less than the prior week's sales in your 5-area feeding region, which was 47,900 head. And actually this past week's is going to be a little bit bigger because we did have some more trade on Thursday. So, but through Thursday of last week, or on Friday we had some more trade, but through Thursday of last week, live sales steers and heifers 102 to 108, was mostly 105 in the north and 108 steady in the south. Southern boys just dug their heels in. They weren't going to take that lower money. They knew they were sitting in a good position. They waited till later in the week and they got steady money just like they figured they would. The north got nervous. They've got some guys there, some of your smaller independent yards that have some big heavy cattle that they should have sold several weeks or months ago, and they're puking those cattle, and then they get the market set, and then the rest of the guys are sitting there holding the bag. But they traded some at 105. That would have been $3 lower live basis on the few live sales that were in the northern areas in Nebraska and Iowa and places. But through Thursday, your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area feeding region was 106.06, mostly $1 lower with the influx of those northern cattle at the lower price. But the lion's share of your live sales are in Texas and Kansas, and they were steady by and large. Your dress sales, steers and heifers, 161 to 168, mostly 165 to 168, and your weighted average on dress steers was 165.13, but that's about $2.50 lower than it was last Thursday, so or at the end of this last week, the prior week. But lost some ground there. But it actually, your dress market was better than what your northern, what your live market was in the north. So you were better off selling dress. Friday we had some more sales, about 700 in Iowa at 106. Nebraska about 3,200 head from 107, and they got the 108 in Nebraska, but it was on the western side because supposedly they were plants in Colorado were short bought. Kansas didn't have too many, but Texas 1,300 head, all at 108. Box beef cutout values dropped hard again for the second week in a row, big time. Your weighted average on last week's movement of box beef for the whole week, the weighted average on choice cuts 208.77, down 11.73. On Friday, your latest quote was just about steady with that weighted average. Now dress sales 192.91 on the weighted average. That was down 9.24 from the previous week's weighted average. And in fact, your Friday last quote on select cuts was actually higher than that weighted average. So they've just about stopped the bleeding on that, albeit at much lighter movement, because they need as much of that product to fill contracts as they can. So they don't really care if they're moving a lot on the spot market, and they can crank those prices back up there and get them about where they want them here to end the year. And we've got nearly a $16 spread between choice and select, and light movement last week, just over 700 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Let's talk about Joplin Regional Stockyards, a sponsor here on the Feeder Flash, good friends of ours. They've got a sale here on Monday, I told you. And they've got a big sale. It's not just a cleanup holiday type run. They had 6,000 head in Sunday afternoon, so probably going to have 7,500, 8,000, something like that. They've got 50 loads of yearlings in the mix. And you know how hard those are to find this time of year. But 50 sure loads of true yearlings in there. That's going to be a good sale. And then they're selling all classes because they're not having a cow and bull sale Wednesday. Then they're going to have another 500 cows and bulls at least after the feeder sale's over. But if you guys are interested in those yearlings, anything that they have in there, just like always, Joplin's going to be on dvauction.com. You can view and bid that sale there. All their major sales right there at Joplin. Retail real-time index on DV Auction ended the week 137.91 based on an 800-pound steer. That was up 179 for the week. And in fact, we had seen a couple of weeks where bigger feeder cattle were starting to ease off and everybody was going after the stocker calves. But this past week, due to some kind of wet, snowy weather we had in the southern plains across your wheat country and things like that early to midweek, we just didn't see guys going after the calves as much, and they've kind of filled a lot of their needs for that. And then we had a resurgence in people buying cattle to go right on to feed. But that's what happened. Cash feeders in your sales last week. True feeder cattle, like a big long time wean calves that are too heavy to do anything else with, got to go to the feedlot, or true yearlings, steady to $3 higher. Calves steady to $4 lower. But everybody's going to holiday schedule. You got to check and see where they're going to have a sale. Like I said, I don't know of anybody having a sale on from Wednesday. You know, we got several sales Monday. Got a few sales Tuesday. Wednesday on, not going to be much going on, but they'll get started again right after Christmas, not too far, especially on those replacement cow sales. There'll be a lot of those around. How about some of your top quotes late last week? Montana livestock auction, Ramsey, Montana, on Friday, sold 51 head, 508-pound steer calves, 178.50. Biggest yearling quote I saw come out of Mankato, Kansas at Mankato Livestock. On Friday, 62 head, 857-pound feeder steers at 140 and a quarter. That's way over your cash index and pretty much in line with what your board ended the week. But the best quotes that I saw anywhere, and your Zactran top quote from the day, come out of Lexington, Nebraska. Lexington Livestock Market. They had close to 3,000 on Friday there, including 56 head, 738-pound feeder calves at 157 and a quarter. That's your feeder flash for Monday.